You'll be having a bet in the Everest?
Not sure yet.
Hopefully James Harron might be able to help you with that. James, good morning. Thank you for joining us on the Sports Daily here in Perth.
Good morning, guys.
Good morning, James. Are you at Randwick?
I'm not actually there, but obviously was watching in. He just had a very quiet trial this morning. But, yeah, it's exciting looking at all the first look at Kaiying Rising and the excitement builds.
Yeah, absolutely. It does. Can we just go back a couple of weeks and then negotiations around Angel Capital and when he burst onto your radar?
Yeah, look, it was, obviously a horse that's had a lot of boom around him. He's, always shown a lot of talent and a lot of bit of X factor about him. So we watched him at Moonee Valley and that was a good return. And then I think that Sir Rupert Clarke was just a real, got everybody talking, and he was very unlucky. Very unlucky not to get the run at the right time. But he, I think he showed just what sort of a horse he is when he sort of gobbled up the track at the end, and I love that sort of profile coming back from the 1400 to 1200, and can't wait to see what he can do.
James, how does Angel Capital profile to your eye as opposed to previous runners in this race? And we know that you've had success.
Yeah, look, I'm probably equally or more excited with this horse. He's, it's just there looks like really good pressure on paper. So, I just hope he doesn't get too far out of his ground. But if he can just be just worse in midfield. And there's really good pressure up front. Randwick's been a very genuine track in that, it's a stiff 1200. I think he could just be really flying home late. But look, I've got massive respect for the field. It just looks like a very, very deep race. I think just to run in the top three is going to be a huge accomplishment for any horse.
Who do you lean on form-wise when you're making these decisions, or is it quite a small team, or is it a big team when you're trying to maybe line up Kaiying Rising and what sort of horse you need to maybe take him down? Who do you lean on for the form?
We've sort of approached it differently over the years. I mean, it really sort of just comes down to sometimes there's only a couple of horses we're looking at, and we sort of, this year we just, we're in house with my right-hand man, Stephen Heath, who's very good on form. We're happy that we sort of had the right feeling for that horse. But, in the past, obviously Mark Sheen does a lot of work for St Sydney, and the late, great Dean Lester was, paramount to us choosing Giga Kick that year. He was a big fan of that horse, which was wonderful to have his insights and on that horse who was 20 to 1, so it was a wonderful asset. But yeah, look, I think our timing wise, Angel Capital just we were just really getting down to the nitty gritty of having a real good close look at it, and he was put his hand up and a few slots had been taken, so I think it was just the right place, right time, and they were very good, straightforward to deal with, and we put it together pretty quick.
What's your impressions of Kaiying Rising?
Well, you can't help but be impressed. He's obviously got, he's running incredible times. He takes luck out of the equation. He's got a world-class jockey and trainer. He's got a lot of things going for him. I guess, he's ticked that box this morning coming here, and he's obviously travelled well and had a look at Randwick. So, if he runs to 135 time form rating, he's going to be incredibly hard to beat. But, it's going to experience different pressure in the race. He's going to experience a huge crowd and a very buzzy crowd, and, we'll see what the temperature and the weather's like. So there's lots of things he's still got to contend with, but there's no question he looks like a very special horse.
Do you get as excited about the Everest this year as you did when it first started?
I reckon more so, to be honest. I think it's just built into such a big beast that, in year one, it was sort of, we didn't really quite know what to make of it. It was fantastic and it was exciting, but I think just given the hype and the build-up just keeps getting bigger and bigger every year. And now this year with the international presence of Kayak Rising and all the contingents and people that come with that, like, it's just, I think it's just, you know, I think it's only built, and we're very, very fortunate and grateful to be a part of it.
As you should be. How big a thrill was Incognito's winning the Breeders' Plate on Saturday, James?
Oh, well, those ones mean a great deal. You know, you go to the yearling sales and, you know, you put your neck on the line and all our, you know, partners get together and you know, sort of, you know, days like Saturday sort of, you know, give you that sort of great feeling that you've chosen the right horse for you know, for what he looked like, a lovely forward, precocious type that you dream about having them back in those races and winning them, and that's what he just did, and he did it so well, and he's just a classy horse, so we're very excited about him.
How do you go about that balance of maybe getting him some more race day experience as opposed to maybe putting him away and targeting some races in the autumn?
Yeah, look, we've just, you know, we generally sort of, once you ask him that question, they answer it for you. We sort of felt like, you know, he's not a little squib that sort of just fell in, you know. I sort of feel like he's got a lot of upside. And talking to Tommy and Michael Friedman, just sort of feel like there's still even a lot of improvement potentially still to come. He wasn't screwed down. Michael doesn't really train like that, you know. He's very kind on his horses, and when they're good enough, they do it. And that was what he did at the weekend. But we're going to give him 4 or 5 weeks off now and just focus on the Golden Slipper in the autumn.
All right, he's in the right stable. Stable's going really well.
Oh my gosh, I'm so happy for Michael, and we've been doing quite a bit together over the last couple of years, and you know, it's no surprise to me how well he's going, because you know, you turn up there and the stable's spotless. He's had the same staff since the beginning. He's got wonderful young foremen who are just, you know, very professional. Wajid, who looked after Stay Inside and looks after Incognito and looks after a public that, you know, he's a wonderful rider, wonderful foreman, and you know, as everybody knows, it's about having a great team around you, and Michael's certainly got that, and he's kept his numbers nice and tight. So they run a very tight ship. So, you know, hats off to them. They deserve the success.
Really well said. Thank you very much for your time this morning, James. Hopefully we're catching up on the Monday after the Everest.
That would be fantastic. Thanks a lot, guys.
Tab Radio, your station of choice. Each weekday morning from 5:30 with the Sports Daily.
Welcome back to the Sports Daily. Not too far away from catching up with the CEO of Perth Racing, James Oldring. I believe that's the Caulfield Guineas Barrier Draw taking place, Diggers. There's a couple of people walking up on stage pulling some silks out of a box, and on the back of the silks is a barrier number.
Right, okay.
Would you like to keep those silks?
Yes.
Yep.
No, not. Yeah, nothing wrong with that. Not sure they'd fit me, but you'd keep
Next
them.
Bucks party you go to, you'd be able to wear them.
Yeah, get around my fat guts.
Righto.
There's Josh Rodder. Looks like Josh Rodder, isn't it?
Yes.
It is Josh Rodder.
So,
yeah. So
no names of horses, nothing coming up other than people pulling silks out of a box, so we'll update you as soon as we can.
Have you seen the final field for this Caulfield Guineas anywhere?
Not yet.
Okay.
Can't find it.
Right, okay. Neither can I.
So, well, they're pulling out barriers, so I presume they're pulling out barriers for something.
Must be around somewhere. So Autumn Boy has drawn 1 and Woden drew barrier 10. Here we go. I'm just looking here, the Caulfield Guineas. Rivellino, Woden, Vinrock, Nepotism, West of Swindon, Vega for Luck, Highvol, Navy Pilot, Autumn Boy, Space Rider, Prestige Olay, Hillier, Stay Cosmic, Planet Red. So 14 horses to run in Saturday's Caulfield Guineas. No Baywalk.
Okay, interesting.
No Baywalk.
Interesting.
So Woden has come up, if I'm not mistaken, with barrier 10. So we can confirm that, though.
All right. We've got one here asking James, he wants to know what time the first on Saturday will be. Need to organise a champagne breakfast. It's from Scotty.
That's
ready to go.
That's a sign of intent from Scotty.
Absolutely. Wayne from Gero. Well, I had a call from someone yesterday asking if I was going to the races, and then he said, "Oh, all right, we'll be able to lick the stamp." I said settle down.
Yeah, settle down. Yeah.
That's sort of Diggers' area. I'll put him under you.
No, well, I didn't answer his phone call.
Wayne from Gero. Marsh, brilliant form, should be in the test side.
No.
You quickly...
No.
Well, that was his response with us, wasn't it, in the press conference most recently?
No, it's not happening.
So this... Name on this? No, can't find a name, but stuff them. Exposed a lot of them, Vozo. We've seen other sports and codes have players removed or punished. That's in regards to the discussion we had a little bit earlier around Essendon, and players felt like it was a little bit confronting the conversation they had around the illicit drugs policy and things. But
it does my head in, the illicit drugs policy, TC. I like to think I have a pretty good handle on most things AFL, but if you ask me what the illicit drugs policy consists of, I couldn't tell you. It does my head in.
I was reading that story about Essendon, and I was trying to come up with a way. How would Vozo have approached that to make the players feel uneasy?
I don't know. Now, whether see, this is the thing. There is an element, or not an element, there's a large part of this illicit drugs code which demands confidentiality. Now, previously, back in the day, it was only the club doctor would be informed if a player had transgressed or tested positive, inadvertently or deliberately. And then that player and the doctor would have a discussion. But now I think it has been widened where there are a couple of officials at a club that are made aware if a player tests positive. And I'm not sure. I don't know whether one of those is the CEO. You'd think it probably would be, and whether he'd had come across Craig's desk that players X, Y and Z have some couple of little issues here, we need to get on top of that, and he's decided, I don't know, he's decided I'm going to embrace this now and I'm going to talk to the group and say enough, be careful, we don't want any more, or we don't want any incidents going forward, and then they've got their back up. But the drugs policy just needs one of the great overhauls, and it needs it soon, but it needs the players. It needs the union to agree to that. And at this stage,
how's that working?
They're not going to bend. They won't.
No, well, they can get away with whatever they want at the moment.
Exactly. You know, if you test positive on a mine site, you're gone. You test positive as a jockey, you're gone. Yeah. And you're identified as a jockey. Yet
Most workplaces,
yet AFL players see themselves as, I don't know, they're sacred. They can't be touched. They can't be identified. I'm not sure why. Yeah, exactly. It's not right.
No, exactly right. We've been discussing this for what feels like 3 years.
Agree.
And I think it's going to continue for 3 more years, unfortunately. But we'll switch our attention back to racing, and very exciting time for WA racing. We get back to Perth Racing Ascot on Saturday. It's the opening day, and we welcome in the CEO of Perth Racing, James Oldring, to the Sports Daily now. James, a very good morning to you, and thank you very much for your time.
Pleasure, TC. Good morning. Morning, Diggers.
Good morning, James. Is there an extra spring in your step this week?
Definitely. Probably the last couple of weeks, actually. It's been the wettest winter in 30 years or whatever, so you're always keen to get back to Ascot, but particularly more so this year.
How does it look?
Looks great. Walked it the other day, and great cover of grass. Brock and the team and have done a great job. Matt Cork out there has really, really done a fantastic job in prepping it and getting it ready. So looking forward to everybody getting back to Ascot, looking forward to getting some horses on it. And actually probably the weather this week is pretty kind the last couple of weeks. Tiny drop of rain doesn't do any harm. Nice warm days. So, it should be in great nick.
Absolutely. Can we expect 10 race programs for the whole of Ascot?
Yes, you can. So that's a new move this year. So obviously Racing WA led, but we were absolutely consulted on it, and I think they've looked over at what's happened in Victoria, and they've just taken the view that it makes sense to have your product on when there's more people looking at it and interested in it. So, we'll absolutely work to support that. We'll make for some long race days, that's for sure. But no, looking forward to it. It gives, obviously, more people an opportunity to have a runner at Ascot through the course season, which is probably a good thing as well. So, really making the most of our metro race days.
Okay, so what do the machinations look like for yourself and Perth Racing with those 10 races each Saturday, James?
So probably the most notable thing people will see is a slightly later opening time for us. I mean, we always open very, very early anyway. We've got 9 o'clock gates open, but we'll push that back to 10, just in recognition that, we do have longer operating hours. We've got more staff on course for longer. But aside from that, it means, we'll be running additional horses for the clerks every day. We're lucky at Ascot. We've got plenty of space in the day stall, so that's not an issue. And we've made sure we've revamped and replaced all the misting systems through them as well, just to make sure that they're all working and they're all in good nick. But to be honest, it's business as usual. We've run bigger race cards than that before, 12 or even, I think 12 was the biggest in my day there so far. But 10 should hold no fears for us, and we look forward to it, to be honest. It's a great time to be back there, and the course is presenting well, not only the track itself, but actually the guys have done a really great job with landscaping and presenting the course itself, and that was a real effort that was started last year, and it's looking great.
Speaking about the track, and you touched on it a little bit earlier on, has there been anything out of the ordinary that's happened since the last time we raced on it?
Other than the full renovation that we would normally undertake, which is pretty severe. I mean, if you have a look at it a couple of days after we finish in May, it's stripped right back to the roots, and then there's some pretty heavy machinery work done over it, coring, backfilling with sand. When we had the machinery over here in the winter for Belmont, we actually put that over Ascot as well, all the ground scanning equipment, just to make sure there were no surprises there, which thankfully there weren't. It should be, the aim really will be to get it playing like it was playing last year. It played even, it played fair, it played safe, and that's all you can ask from a track.
James, those people that do walk through the gates there at Ascot on the weekend, will they see anything or view anything that's perhaps a little bit different from last season?
Yeah, there's a few. One won't necessarily affect the patrons, but probably the big project that's been undertaken in the closed season is complete revamp and expansion of the female jockeys' changing rooms, which was definitely overdue. But that's been quite a big project, so hugely enlarged and enhanced jockeys' room for the females, new stewards' room, extension to the front of that building, which gives us a new admin office, so everything's moved out. That's quite a big project, and big thanks to Racing WA for and also the Racing Minister for his help with that one. Something that they'll see underway is a renovation of the tote hall. So one of our heritage buildings at the end closest to the escalators of the grandstand is getting a complete refurb and creating a new hospitality facility. That won't be ready for opening day, so people will see work ongoing through there. Took a little bit of time to get the development application approved because of the heritage status of the building, but we're cracking on with that and looking forward to basically just bringing back a piece of sort of one of the historical buildings at Ascot that for the last few years has really just been a storeroom, but we should be elevating that back to its hospitality status. So looking forward to that. Bit of a revamped beach club bar, and I've mentioned the cooling systems throughout the day stalls as well for the participants, but big day. We've got Ollie's Bar. Obviously, it was opened last year, so opening day starts with party at Ollie's out on the deck and in the bar. Ollie there himself. A few tickets for that are still available. But it's not just opening day that should be good. I think we were going to start with a bit of a bang because we go straight into Sporting Legends Day on the 18th. There's actually a really good lineup of genuine sporting legends there. We've got strong representation from the Eagles, Dockers, John Worsfold there, Luke Shuey, McWalter, Jake Waterman, Liam Baker, Patrick Voss making an appearance as well. From the Wallabies. Curtly Beale, Danny Green, world champion boxer, and then obviously not a sportsman, but Big John's back. Probably not a time he's ever been mentioned in the same breath as some of them, but looking forward to having John back.
I'm sure it's on your to-do list today, probably, James, but Sporting Legends Day, you'll probably send an email to Diggers at some stage.
Oh, yeah. For what?
We haven't got any
mascot
representation for golf yet, actually, so, yeah.
Now, Big John, you mentioned that. Now, you would have been thrilled to be getting him back because the hype around his visit 12 months ago was immense.
Yeah, and probably surprised us, to be honest. But yeah, he is one of those figures that does seem to really engage with a section of the market that we're keen to have there, and creates a good vibe. He's a really good bloke as well. He's very, very good at what he does and when he comes along. So that adds a real element of fun to the day as well, which is great. And then we bounce from that straight into Irish Day. And that was an 8,000 crowd last year, and ticket sales are well ahead of where we were at this point last year as well. So that could be a really, really big day. So that's 3 pretty huge days to open the Ascot season before we even get to the pinnacles. And obviously that's what, from a racing purist perspective, you're really looking forward to. And we're going to look at the first noms on Monday, on the 13th. So expecting some really strong noms, and there'll be some great storylines through there. Probably at the moment the Winterbottom is a really intriguing one, with Overpass looking to create a bit of history and become the only horse to win the Winterbottom 3 times since the race was developed, but he's likely to have to take on Joker's Grin to do so. So that would be a real East v West clash, which I really hope comes to fruition. But there's plenty of other great storylines, and no doubt we'll see through the course of the season.
Now, James, I've just received a message, and it was about, could you please ask James about the timing system in regards to races? Are we closer to that? Are you aware of that?
I know that was something that was planned. We're talking sectional timing,
yes,
and presumably positioning systems, yeah. So that was very much planned to come in, and unfortunately it's had to be put on hold. Okay. So we're not going to see it this season. It is something that I would love to see. It's one of those things that I feel we miss. We're probably, I'm not sure we're the only state, but certainly most of the others have got it, and it's just an expectation and a regular thing. One thing that you will see on that sort of data element of things, though, is we have installed a weather track system, so manufactured by the same guys who do the going stick turf tracks. But what we're trying to make sure we provide is real-time wind speed and direction, particularly at Ascot, to punters. So have that information available on the website. Because obviously I know people use the wind socks that we have out there, but to be able to see the actual wind speed and direction at any given time is probably a useful punting tool. So that is something that we've tried to bring in for data purposes.
We've had you on this program over the last year or so, James, as well, speaking about the updates there at Ascot and the stabling, on-course stabling, and some other developments around the course. Are you able to update us on what the latest is there?
So the structure plan, which really deals with the land around Ascot, is still with the WA Planning Commission, which is pretty normal. It was submitted in August last year, and it's normally about an 18-month process. It's gone through the City of Belmont, who have broadly approved it with a few suggested amendments, and so it now sits with WA Planning. We would hope we'd get a ruling or an adjudication on it in the next 4 to 6 months, and that would then give the club some optionality around what it can do with the land that surrounds Ascot, which is currently unused. I think if you look at any of the major Australian race clubs' annual reports that are being published at the moment, it's very, very clear how important that non-racing related revenue is to the club and its profitability and sustainability. Brisbane published its annual report the other day, and it's making more than a $4 million a year loss on its racing operations, but that's more than covered by the revenues from their property business and clubs business. So we have to look to that, and this would be it's not the first step, but maybe the second or third step in heading towards that business model where the club is not solely reliant on racing-related revenue for its financial future.
All right, thank you very much for that update, James. All the best for Saturday and all the best over the carnival. I'm sure it won't be too long before we get you back on the Sports Daily and have a chat about everything is going. All the best, and thank you very much for your time.
Pleasure. Thank you, both. There's
James Oldring, the CEO of Perth Racing.
Are you a fan of the 10 races each and every Saturday?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, it works over east, doesn't it, for the big days? You see it in Sydney every Saturday, and clearly they've got a bigger horse population of that metropolitan region, and they have the highways and the like on the weekends, and that's been a great initiative as well.
Gives you the feel of a really serious jurisdiction. You go into the races for 10 races.
10, exactly.
Proper day.
So if you aren't exactly sure what Saturday looks like race-wise, you can go to the Racing WA site, and you can click on the 11th of October, and that will show you there. But there is the Max Simmons Stakes for the 3-year-olds over the 1,000, a no Metro Win Mile, a 2-year-old 1,000 metre event, a couple of graduations, one at 14, the other at 1,800, a 66-12. That's always a good race. It's always a good race. We see some horses who are embarking on campaigns which invariably lead to group targets. They go around in this race. You've also got a 66 plus 2,200, a 72 plus 1,000 metre event. Maybe we get to see all play there off the back of what we witnessed at the trials last week. A 78 plus 1,400 and a West Speed Platinum 1,100.
1,400 metres, 78 plus. Is there a horse possibly going around in that might be single figures for Railway Stakes? Cerise and White?
There's every chance. There's every chance. You're talking Cosmic Crusader?
I was talking the Belmont Guineas winner. Opportunistic.
He may well be there, yes. I'm just wondering whether Cosmic Crusader could find his way there. I was looking at it yesterday. If, and I don't know, if he went that way, I think he'd have 61.5 if they went that way. But my understanding is...
Johnston Porter would be saying, no, let's just wait. And we don't want to run him around with 61.5, do we?
Not sure. He'd get 4 points if he won. They'd take him to 97.
Hard to beat.
He would be very hard to beat in a race of that nature. I think Opportunistic might find his way there. But look, the Max Simmons, we've been talking about it for a couple of days off air, TC, and we'll get the nominations later today. But I think it looks like it's going to be a hot little race.
Absolutely. We'll get the nominations a little bit later. And then I believe Liam Peters is going to make his way into the studio tomorrow morning, so we'll be able to have an extended chat.
Okay, what time is he in?
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock.
There's a fair few feature horses that we'll need to discuss with Liam and how they're going and where they're going and what he's thinking. There's a couple of horses at the trials there yesterday, 3-year-olds that we haven't seen at the races just yet that might be able to springboard and pop up on the way to a Guineas possibly. So we'll get his thoughts on all of that.
Looking forward to that.
Couple of texts here about Ascot. One gentleman, can someone explain the wind at Ascot and what bias it creates?
Yes, when you get a easterly, and often they come, as the weather really warms up, it's dominated, absolutely dominated by on-speed runners. Mm-hmm. And when you get a southwesterly, those are the days where horses with cover are best suited. Not that you can't win leading. And if you do get a 1,000-metre race at Ascot with a southwesterly, you can still play an on-speed horse, no issues at all. But as they extend beyond that, and 1,100 and 1,200 metres, horses with a smother and then get produced, very hard to beat if they've got the talent levels, obviously.
Yeah. Well, the southwesterly, down the way the track's positioned down the back, that long straight, as you reach the corner, you're racing straight into it. So if you don't have cover, you're obviously doing a little bit more work. And then easterly, it's behind you. So when you turn into the straight and you hit a headwind, it's obviously tougher to make up ground when everyone's running into the wind.
And be mindful also, when that rail gets out beyond 12 or 13 for the midweeks, it can also be a track that suits sweepers. It's just with the way the camber is there, horses that can sit back and zap them, and you can see them. Sometimes they can win a midweek and you go, wow, this horse is, one that we need to follow. Yet when they get back to or go up in grade to a Saturday, or the rail goes back, closer to the fence, they don't produce a performance anywhere like the one that they've just done that's caught the eye. So a few things there to work on.
All right, Greg Allen Snoz have had their say as well. Similar messaging. Does a regular 10-race program open itself up to early multiple pay 1 and 2 races regularly? We don't want that. Time will tell. And then Snoz says, will a 10-race card have less horses in each race? If so, not worth it. My big pitch with small fields. I don't think early on with 10 races there'll be small this time of the year. Well, everyone wants to race their horses at Ascot on the big days. I don't think so. And also pay 1 and 2 races. They're not always bad races, to be fair.
Well, let's have a glass half full approach. Let's look on the positive side of things and hope we do get 10 good races there on Saturday. Let's not condemn it yet.
That's the trait that our listeners love about you, Diggers, your positivity.
Thank you.
Wave Tab Radio, your station of choice. Each weekday morning from 5:30 with the Sports Daily.
All right, welcome back to the Sports Daily. Jamie Lovett not too far away. We'll also catch up with SJ Miller. We've got the special underway too, Diggers.
Yes.
With the Tab Touch special on a Tuesday with 6 from the last 6.
Yes, and hopefully...
You can pronounce the name.
Yeah, Novak Djokovic to win in straight sets in his encounter against Jaume Munar, the Spanish player. $1.55 to $2, $30 is the stake. Tab Touch account holders only. That special opened at 7. It will run until 9.
So at the moment, penciled in for about 6:30 tonight, obviously, with the scheduling around.
Is that when it is?
Yes.
6:30? Okay.
So scheduling around tennis matches, understand if they go a little bit longer, it might be a little bit later, but at the moment, penciled in for about 6:30.
Perfect.
This evening, 6:30 would be.
Okay.
Caulfield Guineas.
Oh, yes, go. Have you got the barrier draw there?
I do, yes. So Rivellino 3, Wotan 10, Venrock 14.
Oi.
Nepotism 12, West of Swindon 16. Vega for Luck 7, High Vol 18, Navy Pilot 2, Autumn Boy 1, Space Rider 11, Prestige Olay 4, Hillier 17, Stay Cosmic 15, Planet Red 5, Romantic Encounter 13, Observer 9, Sensu Cavadi 6. Regal Award at $8. Speaking to Jules Valance, I think it was at Sandown meeting that Sentu Cavadi smashed the line over 1,400 metres. He was keen on the horse's chances then. Up to the 1,600 metres looks no worries whatsoever in a wide open Caulfield Guineas. Sentu Cavadi might be the one at double figures that might be able to make a splash.
Okay, apologies. I said a field of 14. You said there's 16 there, full field?
18.
18. So 16 2 emergencies or 14 and 4?
Oh, I've just got the graphic and it doesn't have emergencies.
Okay. Just looking here on the racing. Sorry, apologies, listeners, but just trying to have a look here. Acceptances for the Caulfield Guineas. Yes, 16 plus 2 emergencies. So James McDonald has been named on Woden. Damien Lane to ride Autumn Boy. Okay. So Craig Williams on Rivellino, James McDonald Woden, Mark Zara remains with Vinrock, Blake Shin Nepotism, Ben Mellon West of Swindon, Jamie Mott Vega for Luck, Declan Bates High Vol, Jamie Mellon Navy Pilot, Damien Lane, as we said, Autumn Boy, Bo Merton Space Rider, Prestige Olay, no rider name, Luke Curry rides Hillier, Tom Stockdale Stay Cosmic, Jordan Childs Planet Red, Romantic Encounter for Ben Will and JD Hayes to be ridden by Daniel Stackhouse.
All right, looking forward to that. Autumn Boy, Damien Lane. Caulfield, he's been strung up in a big race this spring, unfortunately, already, so he's going to have to get a little bit of luck from Gate 1, Autumn Boy.
That Golden Rose form is going to read well, is it not? Like, he was beaten 8 1/4 behind Baywalk, but Baywalk smashed the clock. You know, we talk about data and form analysts love fast run races. You would think horses that ran in that race are going to be pretty prominent in betting here, aren't they?
You'd think so.
I.e. Woden.
Baywalk's trying a big number. Woden's number can't have been that small.
Well, exactly. And James McDonald, barrier 10. I know he hasn't won a Group 1 yet. He's had a few goes at it. He's got 5 placings to go with 1 win from 8 career starts, this son of Wooten Bassett. But, yeah, he's beaten, albeit over 4 lengths by Baywalk. But Baywalk ran that 1,400 metres in a ridiculously fast time. Race or track record, 1:20 79. Like, he's broken 1:21 by more than a length. Baywalk. Remarkable.
One left of centre. I didn't think Navy Pilot. I backed him at Sandown. I thought he was a little bit green. It might be coming up a little bit too soon for him. I know he reached a JJ Atkins as a 2-year-old, so
yeah,
the 1,600 metres, he's not going to be any short price. You're not going to have too much on, but from a soft draw, he might be one with a little bit of X factor over the 1,100 first up. He was really good. Thought he did a few things wrong there at Sandown down the straight. Didn't really want to go past the leader, but urged his way there and eventually got there. So the 1,600 metres might be all good for him. All right, we'll continue with our interviews with some big name guests, and they don't come any bigger at this time of the year than Australian Bloodstock's Jamie Lovett. Jamie, good morning to you, and thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, morning.
Good morning, Jamie. Great to have a chat. Thank you for your time. Royal Supremacy's performance in the Metrop on the weekend, did it surprise you?
Look, I wouldn't say it surprised me. I was disappointed at Newcastle. We thought he was a great chance there, and he probably sort of overdid it a bit early part of the race. And I was just a little bit disappointed the way he raced, not his overall performance. But then we went into the Metrop, obviously dropped in weight, He drew well, so I went there thinking he was a live top 3 chance, but he still wants to overdo it a bit, that horse. So I think if we can get him to relax, there's certainly more to come.
So what's next for him? What's in line for the next couple of weeks?
I think he'll go to the Caulfield Cup. He got a 1.5 kilo penalty out of the Metrop, so that'll sort of get him into a Caulfield Cup. And then he didn't get a penalty in the Melbourne Cup, but he's gone up. I think he's about 32 order of entry, so he should comfortably make the Melbourne Cup as well. So at this stage, all being well, he'll go on to both cups.
Now, Robbie Dolan was really complimentary of this horse post-race. Did that reinforce what you already felt, or did it catch you a little bit? Again, sorry for using the word, a little bit by surprise, Jamie.
Oh, look, when we purchased the horse, we always had a good opinion of him, but he's been a bit of a work in progress. Kieran Maher and his team have done a really good job with the horse. He's obviously was a 3-year-old Northern Hemisphere when we purchased the horse, so it was always going to be a horse that we're going to give a bit of time. But look, obviously in the handicap stand and the weights, he now presents like he's a live chance in both races. I would think he's obviously got to start to relax a bit more to run a strong 2 miles. So that's going to be the big question mark. But if he can get the first part of the race right, he showed on Saturday he's a class horse.
When you've gone back and watched the replay a couple of times, what did you make of the run of Vauban?
Yeah, well, actually in the run I was following him closer. When Robbie got going on the turn, I'll be honest, knowing how hard he pulled during the run, I half expected him to stop. So I cast my eye in the run to Vauban because I love him ridden quite like that, and I really thought he was a live chance. But unfortunately, he just had no luck. He got squeezed up at the 300, and Tim followed Robbie Dolan, ironically, and there was a horse bit of pressure from the outside, and he still was able to get at him with the stick, but he sort of went to the line untested. So I was delighted with his run, and he's on track for a Caulfield Cup as well.
Who's the better of the two in a Caulfield Cup?
Oh, look, I mean, obviously they profile totally differently. Vauban, he's been around the block a few times, but he's going to be weighted up to his best. And Royal Supremacy gets in with a light weight and obviously still a fairly lightly raced horse. So, look, Vauban on his exposed form, I would suggest would be the best chance. But the other horse, you don't know where the ceiling is. He's now a Group 1 winner, and he gets into a Caulfield Cup with 52.5. So they're totally different, but I'll give them both good chances on the day, depending on where they draw, obviously.
As we speak to you this morning, where's our Riffer?
He's at Newmarket in quarantine, so he'll leave on Saturday, and they get down into Newmarket.
Now, this isn't...
into Werribee.
Into Werribee.
They leave Newmarket. Yeah, into Werribee, yes.
Now, this isn't your first radio. Clearly, you've had success at, in our great races, Jamie. Australian Bloodstock's done so much for the industry here. But our Riffer, is it a different feeling with this bloke in terms of excitement levels?
Oh, look, he's obviously... I was fortunate enough to be in Ireland a couple of weeks ago when he won the Ledge. He's just a quality horse. I mean... We're very lucky to be able to get our hands on a horse like him. He was sort of bought with the brief not to stay here, so he'll come down for the Cup and then he'll go back to the Northern Hemisphere with a view to running in some of those features, Hong Kong and the likes of Dubai World Cup nights. So he's a pretty special horse. I mean, horses that you're talking those big race meetings globally, you've got to have a good horse. But he showed in the St. Ledger that he stays. He's already shown that he's effective at 1.25 miles and 1.5 miles. So he's just a very, very good horse. So he's certainly exciting, but again, he's weighted right up. They say normally top weights 59 don't win Melbourne Cups, but depending on the spread in the weights, he still just might have that edge class-wise that he might be able to carry the weight.
How do you marry him up with a horse like Sir Delius, who's got tongues wagging over here the last couple of weeks, and everyone you talk to, form analysts, want to say that it's Sir Delius's Melbourne Cup to lose?
Yeah, fair point too. I mean, look, he was a high-class horse in Europe when he was purchased by Gay and Adrian. I mean, he's a horse that he had that upward trajectory. He sort of hadn't plateaued, and obviously now since being down here, he's just continued to raise the bar. So you don't know where his ceiling is. I would say he's the weighted horse in the Cup, given what he's done, and obviously they've followed the weight for age path, so they can't get at him. So it's fair to say that he's the horse to beat. I don't want to be taking 5-2 about anything this far out, but he's certainly the one to beat. And all things being well, on what we've seen, he probably wins. But we all know there's a lot can go wrong between now and Cup Day, and you've got to have a good run around, draw, all those things that can happen.
He's not your horse, I know, Jamie, but do you look at him and does he, to your eye, look like a horse who'll lap up 3,200 years by Frankel?
Look, I mean, that's the thing. Until they do it, you don't know.
Yeah.
He's obviously a weight for age horse, and he gets into a handicap with a winnable weight. So he ticks every box other than the box that he hasn't been to 2 miles. So I would say if the Melbourne Cup wasn't the race we all want to win and it wasn't worth $10 million, they'd probably just keep him on a weight for age pass. He'd go Cox Plate and then do a McKinnon or something, and he'd probably win both. But look, I think that's the question mark. You're always looking for a reason to stop them winning, but he looks like he relaxes. Craig rides him that way, and he balances up and comes with a run. He profiles like he'll get the trip, but again, that's the only question mark I can see with him.
One before we let you go, Jamie. Spacewalk, is he in WA?
Yeah, it was a bit of a mission to get him there. We sort of kept getting bumped on the flight, so he got there later than we thought, but he settled in lovely. So looking forward to him. He'll be a horse that we drive in sort of into that Christmas, New Year period, and hopefully running in some of the better races in the West. All
right, so Winterbottom might come up a little bit too soon?
Maybe, just because of that. We had that issue with the flight. So, but he was fairly fit when he arrived, so he didn't have long off, but obviously it's not ideal sort of waiting for aircraft. But look, he's a high-quality horse, so there'll be plenty of good races for him.
And he's in the right yard. Jamie, thanks so much for your time. Continued success.
My pleasure. Thank you.
There's Jamie Lovett from Australian Bloodstock. So covered Royal Supremacy, Vauban and Al Riffa.
Yes.
They'll all be going around two of them will be going around in a Caulfield Cup less than probably $10, and they'll all be going around in a Melbourne Cup less than 20 to 1.
Yeah, exactly right. It shapes as a cracking Caulfield Cup, doesn't it? Hopefully Aliana goes there.
Yeah, there was a decision, read a story there yesterday that Chris Waller was flying down to Melbourne late last night, so he would have checked over Aliana this morning, and a decision to be made on her next run at some stage today. I was sort of thinking it was pretty straightforward, wasn't it?
Oh, well, yeah, you would think so. Like Group 1, 1.5 mile handicap. Now she's going to run headlong into, well, you just heard there, Royal Supremacy, the last start Group 1 winner, a proven Group 1 performer in Vauban, and Half Yours, who's running the Turnbull, was the greatest Caulfield Cup trial you'll witness. It was a doozy, so it promises to be an excellent race.
Yeah, absolutely. Cannot wait. And we've got the Guineas before that this Saturday as well. Last Saturday, we had the Golden Saddle there at Kalgoorlie, taken out by Magnificent Andy. Trainer SJ Miller joins us on the Sports Daily this morning. SJ, very good morning to you.
Morning, guys.
How are you, SJ?
Yeah, not too bad.
Good to hear. How was Saturday?
Yeah, it was sensational. It was a big thrill. It was really good for the horse, actually. He deserved a win like that, and everything went to plan, and it come off, and not many times in racing, as you know, the plans are always there, but they don't sort of come off at times. So no, it was really rewarding.
Did you go to the races pretty confident?
Yeah, look, when I spoke to you, I was very confident. He was as good as his trials were as good as they've ever been, and he'd come on since the last trial, and he's just a real good little competitor, and in any race he's been in, he does his best. So I knew he'd run up to where he could run up to,
SJ, what was the vibe like there on course on Saturday? Was it different than previous Kalgoorlie Cups that you've been there?
Oh, most definitely. Like the race itself, it was a good concept, and probably 3 years ago you wouldn't expect $1 million race to be run in Kalgoorlie. So to all the people that have, got together and got it happening, and I'd say it's there to stay for sure. It maps in, with the Ascot Carnival, and it's a really good incentive to sort of set a horse for a race like that. So I was lucky enough to win it. You were even better.
Yeah, exactly right. Now, just with that, you talk about it maps in well with what's upcoming at Ascot. I'm sure you've worked back from some of the features at Ascot. Obviously, this bloke was being targeted at that race. So what does the program look like for Magnificent Andy now in the wake of Saturday's win?
Yeah, well, look, he got 2 points, so, handicapper's got to do what he does, and that puts him right up there with Grant and Alana's horse, and, he's a serious horse. So he'll go to the Eurythmic, and then there's I think it's the Ocean Bay of Wait for Age, and that's probably his race. And, I've always sort of wanted to run him in the railway, but whether it maps out for him, with the weight, whether I decide to run him in it, I sort of had thoughts of the 1800 metre race, but even if I run him in the railway, I can drop him back to the Gold Rush, and he's proven, his best distance is 1400 metres. He's lightly raced for a 7-year-old and pretty sound horse, so if he picked up another major, he's done a tremendous job as it is, but there's still a lot of life left in him. That's the best part. He just comes back every time better.
Have you ever had more admiration for a horse?
Oh, look, I've had a couple of really good horses in my time, but and this bloke, you sort of he just goes around, he does his work, he goes to the races, and as I said, he just puts in 110, and I'll never come across a horse like him. He's just that unique little horse.
SJ, we had a chat to Billy Beament yesterday. He said they're going to do a debrief of the Golden Saddle once the dust has settled. As we said, this is year one. It seems like it's been a raging success. What needs to be done, or does it basically remain a status quo going forward?
Oh, look, probably the only little disappointing part about it was, it was a very good incentive. And the only thing was, for me and Brad, at the presentation, we never got a reward. It could have been a little nugget or a ticket to bloody McDonald's or something. But
what, you didn't get a trophy?
We never got anything, and that was the disappointment. But in hindsight, I think they had too much on their mind worrying about everything else, and it's just slipped through the cracks, So, that was really the only disappointing part about the place. It's been a really happy hunting ground for me, and I've had a heck of a lot of luck and success there, and to win that race, the first running of it, it's a really big honour for me.
I know you weren't there on the Thursday for Hannon's Day, SJ, but did you talk to many people? Did they like the Thursday to the Saturday with the Hannon still being on a Thursday? Does that work? Do you have any thoughts around that?
Oh, look, I think that's tradition, them four races, like the Coolgardie Cup, the Boulder Cup, the Hannons and the Kalgoorlie Cup, that's tradition. You're never going to change that. And the racing on Saturday, they were very competitive fields. The Ronnie Sayers, it's a 1100 metre 66 plus, so a lot of trainers would have targeted them horses for that race. The ones that weren't up to the Golden Saddle, it was still a good field. The Cup, obviously, the stayers that we had, we've got the best stayers there. I think, and even with the Hannons, they're completely different. You've got a 1,400 metre horse, and if Andy, if it was a weight for age Hannons, he'd be in it because that's his forte. I think they've done it really, really right, and I think it's only got to get bigger and stronger up there, And Kalgoorlie's always been a place where the town thrives, and I'd say that they would have had. They said the crowd was a little bit down on the Thursday, but they would have got about 8,000 or 10,000 on Saturday, and that's not bad for a race meeting at Kalgoorlie, I think.
No, fair call. Now, I know we touched on it on Friday when we had a quick chat to you, SJ, but to be able to win a race of this nature, the Golden Saddle for David, what does that mean?
That's, like David and I go back a long way, but, I think the first 3 horses he gave me, I sacked them all. I said they're too slow. And this bloke come in the stable, and I'd only had him a couple of weeks. I was out at lunch with David at Rod Russell's, and I said to him, I think I finally got one. His comment to me was, he said, well, we're going to keep on trying until you do get one. So that's what sort of a bloke David is.
Yeah, he's a ripper.
And, I was lucky enough to get him, and a couple of years ago when he won the Hannons, I thought, well, he's done his job, and he's just excelled since then, So, it's a great honour to have him.
Absolutely. Well said. Great to catch up with you, SJ. Well done again on Saturday. I'm sure we'll be speaking about Magnificent Andy in a couple of weeks.
Thanks very much, boys.
There's SJ Miller, the winner of the inaugural Golden Saddle. Quickly out to a break. News on the other side, and we'll dissect everything that's happened on the other side of 8 o'clock.